Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you here with me today. Newly formed tropical storm Barry here into the Southern Gulf. Where will this system head over the next couple days? We'll see what implications this could have for tropical moisture. Also, we have the potential for some stormy action here off the eastern Gulf and southeast coast. We may be looking at not just one, but two potential storms forming over the next couple weeks. And we'll be looking at the rest of the tropics as the intertropical convergence zone and Cape Verde season really starts to open up. Also, the eastern Pacific here, we have newly formed tropical storm Flossie. Western Pacific over the next couple weeks, we could be looking at a chance of a super typhoon. Where could this be headed? And for eastern North America, we could be looking at big stormy times, deep tropical moisture, tropical storm action potential from the eastern Gulf all the way up into the southeast. Could this make a run up the east coast? We'll take a look at all the details. Let's get into it. And here is tropical storm Barry. It is going to be moving in the direction just south of Tampico, Mexico, providing lots of moisture. You can see the convection firing just on the east side of the storm here in the southern Gulf. And also taking a look at our infrared satellite photo of in the loop here, northeastern Gulf. You can see that convection firing in our area of interest over the next several days. All right, so starting off with the tropics here, we are looking at our modeling here for the GFS model, and then I'll show you the European model in just a couple minutes here. But here is Barry. So I just showed you on the infrared satellite photo. Barry is going to remain a minimal tropical storm as it comes inland here later Sunday and Sunday night, really providing a lot of tropical moisture all the way into South Texas as well. We can just put that into motion. You can see what's going to be happening. There it is, a surge of moisture. So even after this thing makes landfall, we're going to be looking at heavy rain all the way up to Brownsville, Texas here. You can see I'm going to be covering Flossie, Tropical Storm Flossie, over on the eastern Pacific side. Then we turn our attention here to the eastern Gulf and the southeast coast over the next several days. Caribbean remaining eerily quiet here. Intertropical convergence zone, we have a big system coming off the Cape Verde Islands area come midweek here, so watch out. We will be watching that, but the big story is going to be this area of moisture that hangs out along a stalled frontal boundary as we go through the next several days, July 2nd here, July 3rd. The GFS does start to try to close off some area of low pressure right around the west coast of Florida here, right around the 3rd into the 4th. You can see right in this area, low pressure trying to form right around the Tampa area and just west of it. And heavy rain pushing into these areas. I'm going to go over rainfall amounts in just several minutes from now, so stay tuned for that. And look at this. This area just becomes a big conglomerated area of moisture. If we just zoom in here, you can see off the southeast coast. So through July 5th, we could be looking at some very heavy rains hanging out here, continuing across much of Florida, South Georgia, South Carolina, and maybe extreme southern North Carolina here as we go in time. Depending on how far north this system makes it, you can see high pressure really retreating towards the Azores over here. So this could allow this system to try to bend northward. But then you see we do have high pressure building in across the Appalachians here. That is going to have implications for where this system goes. So depending on where the two highs are, this may try to go between them. But you can see this solution has bended it a little bit back further towards the west here and bringing a lot of moisture here into Georgia come the July 4th weekend into early the following week. Now, look at out here into the Atlantic. You can see a big, strong tropical wave southeast of the Cape Verde Islands. Big area of Saharan dust. You know, this is going to be slowly thinning in time. We're still going to be dealing with it out here, especially just north of the Cape Verde Islands as it heads west-southwest here. But you see much of the Caribbean, exception for south of Jamaica here towards Nicaragua. As we head towards July 7th, we're going to be looking at this system. So, yeah, all in all, we're going to be looking off the southeast coast, the eastern Gulf, for that potential tropical storm flaring up. Depending on how slow this moves, this could become fairly strong. We just have to wait for it to initialize through that time. So July 7th through July 8th, we're going to be looking at tropical moisture heading up through Central America. Showers heading toward the eastern parts of the Caribbean. That's going to continue. You do see this low level cloud deck. This is the Saharan dust. That's going to be heading towards the west-southwest, towards the Lesser Antilles here. So watch out. Things are going to get interesting along the East Coast once again. Here's July 10th. we could be looking at another system trying to form here into the Eastern Gulf off the southeast coast as this stalled frontal boundary flares up another potential spin up. You can see right around July 12th here. So we could be looking at potentially 2 tropical systems spinning up off of fronts here in the same area. That means more heavy rain for Florida here through the 12th and the 13th. We do have another area of low pressure across the southern Caribbean. I do have to say, things are eerily quiet here across much of the Caribbean into parts of the Western Gulf here. Quite a change we've seen from recent days here. There's our last frame, remaining very active. Once we get past Barry in the Southwestern Gulf, I think, you're smooth sailing from there. But the Eastern Gulf up the southeast coast, potentially up the east coast, we could be looking at some stormy times with all this tropical moisture. And watch out, because I do think the big wild card as we head through mid-July, especially late July, is how fast this intertropical convergence zone gets cranking. Because if we go out here, look at this. This is where the intertropical convergence zone forms across Central Africa. You can see a lot of wave action here. They'll look at this one in particular towards July 6th, July 7th. That one really gets trying to cranking. And look at that, another one July 10th into July 11th. And look at where they're coming from here. Right across Central Africa, where you get that convergence going on. So lots of waves lining up just in time for mid to late July. So looking at the European run here, let's take a look at the Caribbean Gulf here, and then I'll show you the rest of the Atlantic. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits here. So as we progress throughout the rest of Sunday into Monday here, obviously you can see these 2 areas, Tropical Storm Barry moving inland across Mexico, just south of Tampico here. This feature we're going to be watching very closely. We also have another feature here, also another tropical wave south of Jamaica, and another one southeast of Trinidad Tobago here. So we're going to be watching these. It's going to be a really active pattern as we head throughout time here. You can see where high pressure is on Tuesday. It's southeast of Bermuda here. It's going to keep these storm systems moving west-northwest and eventually more northwest throughout the Gulf here. But this system across the Eastern Gulf, this is likely to become our next system as we go throughout the week here. This is really going to be conglomerating, bringing beneficial rain, especially around Florida here in the northern Bahamas. So here is another area. Southeast of Trinidad Tobago, another big tropical wave moving about. And look at this. Yeah, this is essentially a stalled front. This time of year, this is where these spin-ups occur. Also, we'll be watching a big, strong tropical wave moving through the Lesser Antilles as the Saharan dust does continue to thin. And look at this. As we continue out in time, there's that low initializing here off the east coast of Florida. As I said before, it's anybody's game from the Eastern Gulf. Let's get that out of the way there to the southeast coastline here. So watch out. This system will likely be developing in the next week, and then it tries to bring it more towards the southeast coast, at least on this run of the European model through Monday, July 7th. And then as we go out in time, we're looking at more activity across the Eastern Gulf. So interestingly enough, the Eastern Gulf and off the southeast coast, and then the Eastern Caribbean, this is a big change from what we've seen. It seems like we're going to see some rain showers across Central America, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot quieter across these areas. Now look at through July 11th here. There's another tropical wave that could be spinning up across the north central Gulf, Louisiana, Texas coastlines. You're going to have to watch out for this as we go throughout time. You can see, look at this though, quieter times in mid-July across the Caribbean. But yeah, things remain pretty active here off the southeast coast and the northern Gulf and those tropical waves southeast of the Lesser Antilles. All right, going throughout the rest of the Atlantic here. Intertropical convergence zone. This is what I wanted to show you. We have some strong tropical waves midweek coming off the coast of Africa, also watching southeast of Trinidad Tobago areas here. So as we go out in time, you can see these areas start to become further north. Here's the Cape Verde Islands here. Look at this strong wave. Yeah, this is right around July 7th. This is going to be propagating off the coast, and this is something we're going to keep a very close watch on because the European model is actually spinning this up into a closed-off potential low as well, and then another system behind it. It is kind of early for Cape Verde season, so we'll keep an eye on it here, but look at that. As we head through mid-July, it looks really active as this intertropical convergence zone bounces a little bit further to the north. All right, looking at the sea surface temperature analysis, yeah, we're actually running cooler than average through much of the Caribbean now, out through the MDR, the Atlantic, through the Cape Verde Islands. That's what that Saharan dust and some storms kicking up, some upwelling. But look at the Gulf all the way up the East Coast. This is where some of these areas are 2 to 3 degrees above average. And look at equivalent precipitation here. Heavy tropical rains on the European run across the Caribbean. Yeah, this week looks pretty quiet. Most areas getting less than 25 millimeters through the Caribbean islands here. Even Central America taking a little bit of a break. Most areas seeing between 30 and 60 millimeters on average here. It's the following week. We get into July, towards mid-July. We start to see a surge in moisture. Jamaica picking upwards of 40, 60 millimeters, especially the eastern tip upwards of 89 millimeters here. So there you have it. Dominican Republic right around 40, 60, locally higher to 80. Nicaragua, that's the wet spot, 200 to 250. Northeast Honduras here about 100, and Belize you're looking about 140 millimeters coastal areas. And the GFS here into the Western Caribbean, yeah, it's pretty much Nicaragua and coastal Belize that will see the 60 to as much as 120 millimeters this week. Jamaica, Cayman Islands look pretty dry. Dominican Republic, a few showers, maybe up to 20 millimeters, but not much. Northern Bahamas, Florida up through here, that's where you'll be getting hit with these heavier rains, so we're going to watch out for that. And as we go out here in time, through the 15th of July, you can see, yeah, Nicaragua, eastern parts of Honduras, that's where you get closer to the 200 to 300 millimeter amounts here. Eastern Belize, 250 to 350 millimeters here. Jamaica, look at this, eastern tip, western tip, right around 80 to 90 millimeters. Haiti and Dominican Republic, you're right around 60 to as much as 80 millimeters here. So there you have it. Yucatan, look at Cancun, almost nothing. There it is, 0 millimeters here. All right, so I wanted to show you the southeast here, particularly Florida area over towards the north central Gulf Coast with this potential tropical system as it gets more likely throughout the week. Look at this. We just stretched through the whole week here. Yeah, rainfall totals. This is going to be some beneficial rain for the most part. Look at this, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches just north of Tampa. Tampa itself looking right around 4.5. Even towards New Orleans, we'll be picking up around 3. Some areas towards southern Mississippi and Alabama up towards 6 inches. Panhandle as well, just south. These areas, Panama City eastward here. Yeah, some areas looking upwards of 5, 6, 7 inches here along the coastline and slightly inland. And here we go, Florida, for that heavy rain out of our potential tropical system. This takes into account potentially 2 areas of concern because there's going to be one right behind it with another front that stalls. All in all, if we take into account all the tropical moisture, GFS going crazy here with about 5 to 10 inches, with some areas close to 16 inches here. Stay tuned. I know it's been dry, but this may be too much of a good thing too fast. And as we look into the Eastern Caribbean, this is where things get a little interesting as well. As we stretch through this week, it looks a little quiet starting out. Trinidad and Tobago about 25 millimeters on average, so nothing to write home about. But look at this. As we get into that second week, towards mid-July, yeah, we start to moisten things up. Not tremendously, but enough to get you up towards 40 to 60 millimeters in most areas. Look at Puerto Rico here. We're looking about a quarter, maybe a half an inch on average. And a little bit more rain here in the Virgin Island area, about 20 millimeters on average with some scattered showers and thunder showers kicking in, especially that second week of July. And the Eastern Caribbean for the GFS, pretty dry this week, except late week. We'll get some showers moving through the Central Lesser Antilles here and Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe a quarter to a half an inch there around Puerto Rico. And the northeastern Caribbean islands here, particularly the Virgin Islands, will start to get some moisture, some showers late week into next weekend, 20 millimeters on average. Trinidad and Tobago area, though, these tropical waves getting further north. Wouldn't be surprised if some areas get close to 100 millimeters here. Let's look at the CANSIPS model. The rest of June, here it is, pretty much lining up with the Gulf, Caribbean, and Intertropical Convergence Zone. Here it is, for your July. Yeah, these are the areas. It seems like the Eastern Gulf and Southeast Coast are now very well in play, as well as the Western Gulf. These areas just south of Bermuda through the Caribbean islands. And look at the Caribbean, definitely open for business here as well. We'll also be watching the area south of the Cape Verde Islands. As we go throughout August, this just solidifies pretty much the same areas into September. Look at that, though. The Eastern Gulf, Southeast Coast becomes below average for storm systems and heavy precipitation. Really cranks up across the Caribbean, Western Gulf, and look at this out here by the Cape Verde Islands, the MDR, really pivoting upward. And looking across the Eastern Pacific here, yeah, we already have Flossie out here. This is our next tropical storm, and it is going to be paralleling the Mexican coastline, becoming a Category 1 hurricane over the next couple days. By July 1st, you can see it's off the coast here. Here's Acapulco right in here. So it's going to be paralleling the coast. It may actually come pretty close to the southern Baja. The good news is it gets weakened down to about 65-mile-an-hour winds after peaking around 90 or 95. So it's going to be a low-level circulation by the time it reaches the Baja California. And behind it, we see plenty of other activity. We could be looking at another hurricane by the second week of July. That one looks like a fish storm, though. And here we are looking across the Western Pacific, Japan, South Korea, Seoul to Tokyo here down to Shanghai. Looking pretty clear in time, except right around as we head later on in the day, North Korea getting some heavy rain here. But South Korea, look at that, staying mostly dry here with just a few showers over the next couple days through Tokyo. The big story is going to be the potential for this few systems here. There's one southeast of Japan. It could become a tropical storm by mid to late week and eventually a typhoon. It's a very small circulation. You can see the frontal boundary stalled up here across North China and North Korea. That's keeping South Korea, much of southeastern China here through Vietnam, northern Vietnam, and Japan pretty clear here. Look at that. So big typhoons really get cranking here. Look what's going to be happening. We obviously have a big area of high pressure here. Obviously, the northern Philippines getting hit with some heavy rains here during this time. But look at how clear it is. So this is going to allow these typhoons to really thrive. And you can see this one's going to become potentially a super typhoon. This one's going to be on its way out, moving into the north Gulf of Alaska here. But that always can affect our weather in eastern North America, as it always usually does, so watch out for that. Look at this, though. This could become a monster typhoon over the next couple weeks, and look where it starts to drift to the northwest. I caution you because this is getting out to July 10th, so we're well beyond margin of error here. But obviously, this high-pressure system is really going to allow some typhoon action to thrive. You can see how clear it is in Seoul, South Korea, all through the Japanese islands here, and then lots here southeast China. Look at this. This wants to take it right in the direction towards Shanghai as a super typhoon on the 11th. A lot can change between now and then, but this would be a devastating hit on Shanghai if this were to pan out. And this would spread heavy rain across the southern Japanese islands as well. Let's just back that up there. You can see places like Okinawa here, the northern tip of Taiwan. It would be pretty close to you as well. So watch out. Things could get really nasty here. As I said before, and many times in the past, it's anybody's game once this thing gets cranking here into the Western Pacific. Across the Philippines, as we head through the 11th, look at this. Stormy action as well. Lots of monsoon rains really kicking in here. Could have some more tropical development. And if we look at our future radar here, as we head throughout the rest of your Sunday evening in particular, we're going to be looking at a tremendous amount of shower and thunderstorm action across the southeast here, even up through the mid-Atlantic. And we have a mesoscale convective complex up towards Wisconsin here. Let's just cover that really quick through 8 p.m. this evening. That is going to be on a weakening phase, though. It does bring some shower and thunderstorm action into parts of Ohio, western Pennsylvania. A new one gets cranking out here into the central plains. And as we head throughout time, you see, look at 3 p.m. on Monday. Yeah, we're looking at a lot of shower and thunderstorm action here across the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, western Pennsylvania. Some of these could spin up into severe thunderstorms, damaging wind, large hail, but nothing like major, widespread severe weather. So we might have some stronger cells here across Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, all the way back through Illinois, parts of New Jersey as well. Eastern Pennsylvania looks pretty interesting. Heavy rain threat really running high through Monday evening here, the 30th. That slowly bogs down into southeastern Pennsylvania and central New Jersey, and eventually southern New Jersey through 3 a.m. on Tuesday. And then look at this. This is Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. Showers and thunderstorms breaking out across Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo areas, London, Ontario. This is going to move to the northeast. You see the last frame here showing showers and thunderstorms from eastern Ohio all the way up into upstate New York. Now, as we go throughout the southeast, the big story, as I've been saying, this video segment is going to be the shower and thunderstorm action associated with this potential tropical storm that may be forming. So it's going to be with us a long time here. So we'll be following this all week. I'm going to be coming out with updates, and you can see by about the 30th at 9 a.m., so this is Monday morning, you can see some shower and thunderstorm action forming from southeastern Louisiana all the way to the west coast of Florida, right around Tampa, all the way up to Panama City, Pensacola, these areas. And showers and thunderstorms blossoming all the way up here into the Tennessee River Valley. So we're going to continue to watch this. Look at how this just pinwheels. You can see the circulation trying to really just wrap around here. You can see the last couple frames here on Tuesday morning. Here it is, looking more organized here over the Eastern Gulf. As we head throughout the rest of your Sunday evening here, we're looking at a couple areas of strong thunderstorms, particularly the plains, eastern Colorado, all the way through Kansas, Iowa, and parts of northern Missouri, Wisconsin area. Damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornadoes. We're also watching another area around the nation's capital here and northern and central Virginia, even parts of southern Virginia around Richmond, Roanoke, all the way up to Washington, Baltimore area, and the Delmarva, even clipping parts of southern New Jersey. As we see Monday, this area of severe weather, it's a marginal risk, though, from the Midwest through Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia here, stretching all the way back through southern Michigan. So watch out. We may have some damaging wind, large hail, isolated amounts here. And stretching eastward for your Tuesday, look at this. We're lining up the marginal risk across the I-95 corridor and interior regions back towards I-81, Binghamton, Scranton, Harrisburg area, Washington, D.C., Roanoke, Raleigh, all these areas up through parts of New England as well. Damaging wind, large hail, the main threat. So picking up where our future radar left off here on the GFS model. As we continue to go out here in time, Tuesday into Wednesday, you see that frontal boundary moving through the Ohio Valley and Northeast. Watch out. May have some strong to severe thunderstorms kicking up along it. You can see through Maryland, Virginia as we head through 5 p.m. on July 1st. Here all the way up into northern New England as well. We could see a narrow line of strong thunderstorms moving through New York City, Atlantic City, Boston, down through the Outer Banks here. Watch out. Kind of starts to stall. This is the beginnings of what we could be looking at a prolonged rain event here across parts of the Southeast, especially Florida, centered around Florida, all the way back through southeastern Louisiana, extreme southern coastal Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and maybe clipping parts of the Carolinas here, the Outer Banks, all the way down through South Carolina. But this is going to be a very slow-moving area of low pressure. I think that's why we're going to see some sort of tropical development along it. There it is. GFS showing right on July 4th. This moving into Florida potentially as a closed-off low. We may have a tropical storm before it moves inland and crosses Florida for the 5th, and then reemerges on the other side off the southeast coastline here, as I mentioned in the tropics, providing lots of tropical moisture well inland here. Some of the models, too, in time, we're wanting to take this up the coast, too, so that's a potential we'll have to keep an eye on as well, especially since this area of high pressure really starts to crank further east. It may allow this system to bend more up the coast and combine forces with this area of low pressure, this front stalled across the Appalachians here. That could have implications for very heavy rain as well. You know, when these tropical systems interact with these kind of fronts, it can surge some big-time moisture up through parts of the Mid-Atlantic, coastal areas, and even the Northeast and New England here. So we'll have to watch out for that as we go in time. But then we start, just like I'll show you on the European model, there's some mesoscale convective complexes that may start to emerge into that second week of July. You see that storm system moving to the East Coast, the 11th into the 12th. We do it all over again with a stalled frontal boundary. We have to watch these for potential tropical development this time of year. There's the last frame. With a stalled frontal boundary, could we see another tropical system forming along it? It's quite possible. European model picking up with our future radar here. Look at this as we go throughout the week. Here's Tuesday. So there it is. We can see some storm system moving through the eastern lakes, Ohio Valley, bringing up those shower and thunderstorm chances. Watch out. Some could be strong to severe. Is there going to be like a large-scale mesoscale convective system? It doesn't really look like it with this system, as it lifts a lot of the energy here to the northeast towards the St. Lawrence Valley into southeast Canada here. As usual, as I talked about in the tropics and on the GFS model, we're going to be watching this area across the eastern Gulf and off the southeast coast. Now look at this. We do see some mesoscale convective systems dropping around this high towards Delmarva here for your Wednesday morning. So watch out. That could drop southward across the eastern part of North Carolina, the Outer Banks, and flare up some showers and thunderstorms. But look at this. Just shaping up for a good Wednesday. And Thursday here across the lakes in the northeast, with the exception around the edges here, we could see some stray showers and thunderstorms up here in northern New York and southeast Canada, northern New England. And that pivots some of those showers and thunderstorms. But look at July 4th. Yeah, it is looking like high pressure really building in across the east. Just some rain around the edges, Florida and Maine and northern New England here. So if you're getting out there with those fireworks, watch out, especially if it's dry in your area. You might want to think about it twice with, setting off fireworks. But here we go. As we continue through July 5th, there is that low pressure initializing off the coast of Florida. We could very well be talking about a tropical system over the long July 4th weekend holiday here. Now look at up here. This is where we get some mesoscale convective complexes forming on Sunday, July 6th up through the Midwest, northern Midwest. And there's our low pressure. We'll be watching potential tropical off the southeast coast. As we continue through Monday into Tuesday the following week, July 7th, you can see high pressure really anchored in control here. That classic ring of fire really starting to build in. So we'll watch for the outer periphery of that. Maybe some mesoscale convective systems. Look at this. Parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and Virginia. Even another one forming up here through Wisconsin. Very busy pattern setting up around this ring of fire. As we stretch through the 11th into the 12th, you can see a big push. This is definitely a big frontal boundary with massive high pressure building behind it. Plenty of tropical moisture socked in across the southeast here. And look at this. We try to get a coastal low crank in here on Monday, July 14th. Got to watch these as they move off the coast. It may go subtropical or tropical in nature. And total liquid equivalent precipitation here on the European models. We head throughout the new week through the 4th of July. We'll just stop it right here, and then we'll continue. Look at parts of Florida here. Panhandle, western coastline, through central Florida. You could be looking at 4 to 8 inches in some of these areas with this tropical system. Watch the Carolinas as well. It's going to be just offshore from you. Now, as we go in through the second week here, look at this. We really moisten things up as we get that tropical moisture surging up the U.S. East Coast, even towards Delmarva, New Jersey, getting upwards of 4-5 inches. Look at parts of Florida, though. This is where we could see some areas approach 8 to 10 inches here on the west coast and parts of the coastal panhandle here. So watch out. Parts of the Ohio Valley getting upwards of 2, maybe 3 inches through the next couple weeks as well. And here we go, the GFS liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here on our latest run. You can see this week as we head through 4th of July, the big story is going to be this heavy tropical moisture from southeastern Louisiana, southern Alabama, Mississippi, all the way through parts of Florida here, especially the west coast of Florida panhandle, even getting into the GFS showing parts of South Florida as well. And then up the coastline just off the Carolinas. So it's going to be really close for you. We're going to see if this runs up the coast come that second week of July. But here it is. Look at parts of Florida, Fort Myers area down and through here. Some areas, the GFS showing upwards of 4 to as much as 9 inches. So watch out. This looks like some very heavy rain. As we continue through the second week of July, we're just going to pile more rain. Look at the southeast here. Even up the coast here towards the Outer Banks, we're going to see some surges of some deep tropical moisture. Most of this is tropical moisture, by the way. And then here throughout the lakes in northeast, we will see a general 1 to 2, maybe as high as 3-inch amounts. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, if you've made it this far in the video and you like it, everyone, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help the video. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Especially with this hurricane season, hit that subscribe bell notification so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. And don't forget, if you haven't caught my 2025 official hurricane forecast for how many storms and hurricanes I think this hurricane season, it's at the end of this video. There's a link and also a link in the description down below. Let's continue with more weather coverage. And your upper air weather pattern here on the European run, you can see, we get a little bit of a disturbance trough moving through midweek here, July 2nd. Hopefully we can get this out by July 4th. And it looks like it is trying to dig July 3rd. And there's July 4th. Even though we're going to see some inclement weather in northern New England here, the rest of the east is looking better as we head through the July 4th weekend. Ridge building in for July 5th and 6th across the East Coast. And you see that just solidifies into the 9th, 10th, and 11th before we start to see a little bit of evidence we might be getting into a little bit of a blocky pattern here. That second week going into mid-July here, we see a little bit of troughiness, low kind of cutting off across the southern Great Lakes. And looking at the NAO index, we are going into way positive territory. Could this mean better weather for eastern North America? It's starting to look that way. And MJO index here, we're actually going to be trending towards 3, 4, and 5 as we go throughout July. That does mean quieter weather for eastern North America. And here's our Canadian weather outlook. It's starting off a little bit quiet, just a little bit around the edges here. Canadian Maritime, Southern Ontario, and Western British Columbia. One thing's to note, though, things are going to get active pretty quick here. That's some good news for the wildfire situation, especially out here towards the northwestern provinces, towards the Rocky Mountains and the prairies. We're going to try to get some rain here. We have high pressure building, and so most of the western areas, central areas will be dry to start here. But look at southeast Canada here. You're really getting in on some of this action. Canadian Maritime's low pressure bombing out. Now, this is where things really start late week to get active. British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, we're actually getting some heavy rain in areas we need it. These wildfire situations here. That is some really great news. Look how this elongated area of low pressure with this frontal boundary just kind of stalls out here across the northern provinces. That is some great news. It does start to fizzle out by then, and much of its energy heads to southern Ontario and Quebec, where you might have some strong thunderstorms here across southern Ontario and Quebec region through July 5th. Bringing some rain through Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland here. And then look at that. We set up another big cranking storm here through central and northern Alberta. That is some great news for the wildfires as well. Going to really kick that low pressure up across northern Saskatchewan, Manitoba. And look at this. By July 8th, we got a very vigorous low pressure up here bombing towards Hudson Bay. That could drag a sharp cold front through central Ontario, strong to severe thunderstorm potential, drying behind it. That frontal boundary moves to the east, strong thunderstorms across southern Ontario and Quebec as it moves towards New Brunswick towards July 11th and 12th. And look at that. Last frame, very quiet across much of Canada, just northwestern British Columbia with this Pacific system. And Canadian liquid equivalent precipitation totals here on our European run. You can see, yeah, we're going to be getting a lot of good rain here. This is some good news. Even Alberta up here with the wildfires thankfully calming down a little bit, but still raging. You're going to see about 60 to close to 100 millimeters. That is great. And look at across southeast Canada, especially Ontario and Quebec as we zoom in. There's plenty of good rain here, 60 to 120 millimeters. Lesser amounts here towards the Canadian Maritimes, looking at 40 to 60. And then here's Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba areas. Yeah, you're going to see some heavy rains breaking out. Unfortunately, this area where the wildfires are, there's a little bit of a rain hole, but you're still going to see some clouds and rain, which is still some great news. All right, so let's take a look at our temperatures here. Yeah, the heat is on up the I-95 corridor here in Monday, 90s, even some upper 80s near 90 interior lakes and northeast here. So watch out. Things are going to get pretty interesting throughout the week because we're going to seesaw back and forth here. Look at the west, though. That's where the heat's going to be building. That's going to be making a little bit cooler across the Midwest, lakes northeast, right around 80 into your Tuesday. That looks nice with those, showers and thunderstorms breaking out on the east side of that trough. Now look at Wednesday, July 2nd. Yeah, the heat is on basically west of the Mississippi River here, 90s throughout the plains here. And then look at lots of mid-80s here across the mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley into the northeast. And as we head throughout Thursday, getting close to July 4th here, look at this. Even some upper 70s around the lakes near 80. But look at this. We're cranking the heat up through the Carolinas, lower 90s. Central Plains really kicking those mid to high 90s back into Friday, July 4th. There it is. Yeah, looking really nice right around 80 across the lakes in the northeast. Down and through the mid-Atlantic, approaching 90 here. And the rest of the nation looking well into the 90s into your Saturday, July 5th. If you have continued July 4th plans. Yeah, the heat is building parts of the western Ohio Valley, southern Midwest into the 90s here, and even creeping up into the Northeast, upper 80s, 90s throughout the Carolinas, and mid-upper 90s across the Gulf Coast. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, bring them to just Grant and Upper Susquehanna River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. As we stretch through Monday through Friday here, Friday being 4th of July, let's take a look. Showers and thunderstorm potential Monday. Very low chance. The heat will be on, though, low to mid-90s into Tuesday. Showers and thunderstorms likely with that front approaching. Clearing on Wednesday. Watch out Tuesday. We may have some strong thunderstorms, though. Wednesday's nice. Thursday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms with another front. Look at this, though. 4th of July looks nice. Sunny, right around 80. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget, it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.